Today, I want to talk to you about a subject that's not often talked about in the fitness industry. And I always wondered why not. Why is it that some subjects that are so crucial to health are not talked about as much as one expects in the fitness industry? Now, it is very simple. It's because it only tends to affect the older people. That's why. And because the fitness industry, as I've said in another video, which I think you should go and listen to after this video, the fitness industry really caters and concentrates on younger people. If you are anything over 30 and 40, the fitness industry does not seem to care about you. Now, the subject I'm about to talk about is sarcopenia. I'll explain what sarcopenia is, and I'll tell you exactly what we're going to talk about. But the one thing I want to make you be aware is sarcopenia is real. It is an everyday thing, and it affects almost everybody. It depends on the rate. And the older you get, the more it affects you. The reason it's not talked about a lot, as I said, is because it mostly affects people as they get older and the rate increases. And because it's talked about very little in the fitness industry, it's not very well known about. People know about it, or they just know somebody who might have it. But what I'm here to tell you is, you will have this. It's the rate that counts, and that rate will increase for you and for me and for everyone else, unless we do something about it. And that's why we're here today. Sarcopenia is only often talked about in medical papers or in research papers, or if somebody has it and they go to their doctors and it gets talked about. That's why it's not very well known. But who wakes up on a daily basis and reads medical papers? Who rather read about how to do bicep curls or how to do sit-ups or how to do a marathon. That's what you see in the fitness industry. But one of the things that is a silent killer of people as they get older is sarcopenia. Before we go into the meat of the subject, I liken sarcopenia to inflation. Now most of us know what inflation is. Inflation, as we know, is when, for example, your money begins to lose its value over time just because it's not being put into productive use and therefore growing and offsetting the impact of inflation. That's what inflation is. We tend to know about that. Funnily enough, people know more about inflation than they know about sarcopenia. But I can guarantee you, sarcopenia affects you more than inflation. So I digress a little bit, but I wanted to bring that subject up because some people tend to understand what inflation is. And if you understand inflation, I'll be drawing parallels between inflation and sarcopenia because it's kind of the same subject in terms of how they behave. Because inflation eats away at your wealth, at your money. If you are not investing it, such that it grows. The same thing, sarcopenia eats away at your muscles. Now, let's get into the subject. So what is sarcopenia? Sarcopenia is the progressive loss of muscle, and this is my own definition. There are clinical definitions, there are technical definitions. You can read about those if you are really that way inclined, but I'm here to talk to you in plain language. Sarcopenia is the progressive loss of muscle, mostly as you get older. And that progression accelerates as you get older. But on average, between the ages of 30, probably a bit earlier, but let's just say 30, to whenever you pass away, that progression increases, ranging first by a fraction of a percent down to 1% at some point. On average, you'll be losing, if you average it all out, you'll be losing on average about 1% of your muscle mass. Now, that might not sound a lot, but when you accumulate that and you find out what you will have lost in just a decade, it's alarming. It's exactly how inflation works. I come back to these parallels or analogy between sarcopenia and inflation. So that's what sarcopenia is. Progressive, continuous loss of muscle in an accelerated way over time to the extent that you lose a lot of muscle quantity. The second part of it is not just the muscle quantity that you lose, as if that wasn't bad enough. You lose the quality of the muscles. We tend to lose the high twitch muscle fibers at a faster rate. Those are the ones that give you power, acceleration. So if you're a sprinter, you tend to use those muscles than if you're just jogging or walking. That muscle type is the one that gets lost first or the most. So you lose more muscle, but you also lose the quality of the muscles. The next thing which you lose as a consequence of the other two is strength. You lose your strength and you're not able to lift things. And quite frankly, I've got another video wherein I talked about how I lost muscle, but it wasn't the muscle. I talked more about how I lost strength. It was a tongue-in-cheek video, but it wasn't funny then. And that video is there. It's about how I lost strength without realizing it. And it was an indicator of me losing my strength and my muscles and aging faster. That video is there for you to watch later on in your own time. But for the here and now, when you lose the quantity of your muscles, you lose the quality, you lose your strength. And mostly it's about grip strength. And there are tests for this, both clinically and in the fitness sense. But today I'm just really here to draw your attention to how important and how insidious understanding and taking sarcopenia seriously is. I will have subsequent videos to talk about how you address it and also what to do to make sure, in fact, it doesn't even affect you in the first place. But if it does affect you, and how to reverse it. The other thing it affects is your posture. Now, again, that's logical. When you lose the quantity of your muscles, which is what actually what happens, and then you lose the quality of the muscles, the muscles that give you power, and then you lose strength, the next thing that goes is you lose your posture. You suddenly become a very stooped person, and you can't even stand up straight. You lose your posture totally, and as a consequence, you lose other things. You lose your gait, basically how you walk. That's why if you see people who are older, that's not because of the age. It's because sarcopenia has eaten away at their muscles. They walk very slowly because there is no power, and therefore their gait is very shuffly, and they take very short gaits. And that's an indication of sarcopenia doing its havoc internally. So rough at a high level, in non-technical, non-clinical language, that's what sarcopenia is. You lose your muscles, the quantity of them, the quality of them, you lose strength, and you lose your posture, and suddenly you are in sarcopenia territory. The next thing I want to cover is what happens when you get sarcopenia, when you lose your muscles. Well, the first thing to say is, in terms of your lifetime, if you lose a lot of muscle progressively, you lose lean body mass by about 20% from, say, between your 30s and your 80s, or even your 70s. It all depends on how fast it goes down for you. So imagine that. That's about a fifth of your muscle mass. So if you take all your muscle mass, this thing which is so important to us, I've already talked about what happens when you begin to lose it, and then you lose a fifth of that. You lose 20% of it. Now that's actually just in the ordinary course of event. That's if you haven't fallen and broken a leg or become immobilized and therefore you're not using your muscle, then it becomes really catastrophic. You could lose 40, 50, 60% of your lean body mass, mostly muscle. So ordinarily, if you just lived your life, you are likely to lose a fifth of your muscle mass. Now that will definitely reduce your strength by a fifth. It will reduce everything. That's why we say older people are weak. It's nothing else. It's nothing mythical. It's nothing that comes out of some fiction. It's just because they've lost the thing that gives them the power and the strength. The next thing that happens is you lose your grip strength by about 40%, or your gait. So that basically by about 40% of grip strength. What that means is you're not able to either hold on to things, or one good test people normally say is whether you can hang from your body weight. But that's just a fitness test. You definitely lose your grip strength by about 40%. That's almost half. So a practical example is, if in your 30s you can open a jar, the lid of a jar, which is tight, and by the time you are 60, if you've lost 40%, you will not be able to open that. Or if you are able to hang on to a horizontal bar with your body weight at the age of 30, let's say for 1 minute, by the time you are 40, 50, 60, you probably will only be able to do for 30, 40 seconds, 50 seconds. That shows that you're losing your grip strength. The next thing is, and this is the one that is not even talked about a lot, is your gait, how you walk. That you're about to lose about 50% of it. So if you imagine a young person with full strength, when you walk on purpose, your steps are wider, and you've got a bit of power as you walk. When you're older, you tend to shuffle. That is a loss of your gait and your posture as you walk by about 50%. That's why when you see an older person walk down the street, they shuffle, they walk very slowly, and they take very short gaits, and you say, oh, that's an old person. It's not the age. Well, it is, but it is sarcopenia doing its havoc inside. So this is what happens when you allow sarcopenia to take hold. Now let's talk about the effects of sarcopenia apart from just the physical things I have just talked about. There are other physiological things that will affect you. So we've talked about the strength, the grip strength, the gait. That's fine, that's physical, that's outside, and that's important. But the other thing to remember is there is worse that will happen to you. Basically, muscle mass is there not only as a physical tissue to make us stronger so we can move things in the physical world from A to B, even though that's what most people presume it is about. The things I've talked about earlier are about that. But the other things which are internal, insidious, that we don't know about is that muscle helps prevent dementia. Now, if you lose muscle mass, you put yourself in a category where you are extremely high risk of having dementia. And this is almost certain one of the largest contributors of dementia. Because muscle is an active tissue, it's a live tissue. It secretes something called myokines, which sends signals to all the body. Muscle is an organ by itself. So it's not only this tissue, this physical, inanimate thing that just helps you move stuff. It's not like an elastic band or a piece of metal. It's an active organ, probably one of the most powerful organs. It secretes myokines and it sends signals everywhere in the body. Just like one of the other videos, the opposite, which is visceral factor I talked about, which you can go and listen to after this video, that secretes dangerous chemicals. This secretes the good stuff, sending signals. It's almost the opposite. So it secretes myokines, and that helps prevent dementia. Now, we all know that if you don't know about the dementia, you can read about it, but this is where you lose total self-awareness in terms of where you are in space. Now, this is just a simple definition. Now, it's absolutely devastating for anybody to have dementia. So if by maintaining muscle mass and avoiding sarcopenia, we can prevent dementia, it's absolutely a no-brainer to make sure we do that, we avoid sarcopenia. Also, muscles are a massive utensil as a glucose disposal. Glucose disposal meaning that it enables us to drain away the excess sugar in our system, in simplest definition. So we all know excess sugar in the body causes all sorts of havoc. It damages the tissue, it causes us to have things like diabetes, it increases your HbA1c, and consequently, it really causes all sorts of havoc. And it can cause dangerous tissue damage within your blood cells. So muscle becomes the drainage or the storage for gathering all that excess sugar and disposing of it. So it's a fantastic drainage system for that. The other thing that muscle does is it's the amino acid reservoir for muscle protein synthesis. For us to grow muscle and maintain the strength, it's the muscle themselves. They act as an amino acid reservoir. Amino acids are the ones that enable muscles to grow. It comes from protein. And if you don't have enough muscles, it cannot keep that reservoir so that it can then later on do the muscle protein synthesis and grow your muscles. So just as the muscles drain the sugar, it keeps the amino acids and therefore enables you to not have the bad things that sugar causes, but it enables you to have muscle protein synthesis. So it affects you in a positive way, and it avoids the things that are negative to your body. Muscle is also, it enables you to have your frame, we've talked about this, that enables you to maintain your bones in an integral way and avoid falls. And because we know if you have a fall, particularly as an older person, if you get a fall, this is probably, again, one of those things that are not talked about a lot. One of the most dangerous things to happen to an older person, one of the most catastrophic things, is a fall. Now, when we're younger, you can trip and fall and it becomes a little laugh. Your friends or your family will say, oh, you tripped and it'll be. That is absolutely devastating for an older person, because if you fall, because partly because of sarcopenia and partly because of the fact that they've lost muscle and their bones are brittle. If you break a bone or you break a hip and you're not able to move, the dangerous cycle of not moving and therefore not using your muscles, if you don't use it, you lose it. That means you lose your muscle at a rate much higher than the percentages I was giving earlier. I talked about on average you lose 20% over a lifetime if everything is normal. If you break a limb or if you get injured and you are immobile in bed, within 7 to 10 days, the whole thing will accelerate. So by having muscle, we maintain our integrity, and a little trip will mean you're able to rebalance and not fall, and therefore less danger of breaking something which will then make you immobile. Now let's talk about what you could do. Now that we know how dangerous this stuff is, let's talk about what you could do to cure this. Now, it should come as no surprise that resistance training is the prevention as well as the cure for this. Prevention is if you are doing resistance training from your 30s onwards, just like I talked about, if you've got cash and you invest it, you will avoid inflation and even overtake inflation, counter the effect of inflation and grow your wealth. That's how people get wealthy. In the same way, if you started your exercise early in life and you continue it, sarcopenia will still attempt to do its havoc in an underlying way, but your growth of muscle will more than offset it and you will grow muscle. So exactly the same phenomenon happens. So resistance training is what you should do, and there are all sorts of protocols out there, but the key principles for sarcopenia anyway, you should do your training frequently. In the EVERPRIME system that this channel promotes, we talk about the daily routine. There is a whole video about what I do in my daily routine. 15 minutes is enough to see sarcopenia at bay, to keep it away totally. By just every day 15 minutes. Okay, so you have to do the frequency of training, and you have to target. Now again, I always talk about how the current fitness industry tends to address mostly the younger people. Younger people, their training protocols is all about the upper body. I know they talk about not skipping leg days, but we all know they skip leg days. It's all about upper muscles, it's all about biceps, it's all about the chest, it's all about the back. Absolutely, that's fine. Nothing against that. We should have that as well. But if you are older, if you are over 30, and definitely if you are over 50, you should be prioritizing not upper body, not necessarily because you don't want a V-taper. We all want that. But you do want to make sure you absolutely prioritize your legs, because that's the first sign of immobility. If you cannot use your legs, if you cannot get up from a chair, or you cannot do simple movements with your legs, that's the first sign of immobility. And the more immobile you are, the more sarcopenia sets in, and we should avoid that at all costs. So target the lower body, target the legs in particular, and make sure there is enough stimulus in there to keep your legs absolutely strong and active. And make sure the volume is there. Start from 40 to 60 one rep max, down to 70 to 80%. So take it gentle, but do progressive overload, because the muscle will only adapt if it's challenged continuously. I mean, this is standard stuff. So definitely sarcopenia can be avoided if you started training early, and therefore you don't even notice it because it's underlying. Your growth of muscle will more than offset it. But if you've started to experience muscle loss, sarcopenia, all is not lost. As long as you know how dangerous sarcopenia is, and you know how important it is to reverse it, you can reverse it. Simple exercises, starting gently, and then over time, increase the challenge to the body. You will see sarcopenia off. And that will be the best thing you will have done for yourself. In the EVERPRIME system, this channel, we've got very simple protocols. For example, I've got a 5-step process that I follow. I am 64, and until about 2 years ago, when I was 62, I had all the hallmarks of sarcopenia. Again, I mentioned there is one video where I noticed I've lost strength. I couldn't carry carrier bags. I couldn't open a tin for my wife, and so on and so forth. I couldn't get off the swimming pool by lifting myself using my arm strength. That video is over there. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, that video, but it's all true. And it's a good measure of how I was losing strength. So in the EVERPRIME system, we recommend a few steps. Firstly, bodyweight exercises. This is really simple. You don't need any equipment. You just use your body, push-ups, pull-ups, and squats. and then you do a bit of cardio. I've got an indoor exercise bike that is very simple to do, and I pedal that to get absolutely my heart rate to the fastest rate. The next thing is long walks, which will allow a bit of fat burning. And then the other thing is indoor strength training. I've got adjustable dumbbells, I've got a bench, and I use that. But this is just a summary of what happens. The protocol is very well structured, and it's almost a dose. And there is a sequence. And if you want to understand how to do this, there's a video that goes through exactly what the protocol is. In fact, if you need help on how to reverse sarcopenia using the EVERPRIME system, which I used, you can go down to the first link in the description and you can apply, and I'll be delighted to help you. I'll get in touch with you via WhatsApp, and you'll be amazed what will happen to you. In short, sarcopenia is the hidden carnivore that's eating into your muscles. It's the top carnivore of humans. Do not let it continue to eat you. Wake up and make sure you address any sign of sarcopenia that I've talked about here. Now let's go.